November is an important month when it comes to weather. The amount of sunlight the U.S. receives decreases rapidly, many areas across the state see their first snowfall, and average high temperatures begin to plummet across the north. This November has already started off with a bang, so what could we expect for the rest of the month? Firstly, here is the National Weather Service's outlook for November. This forecast features a high chance for above-normal temperatures across much of the west and south, as well as Alaska, while normal to below-normal temps prevail in the northeast, mid-south, and Great Lakes. Looking at the 6 to 10-day outlook shows that they believe both coasts will be somewhat cool through the middle of the month, while a large ridge builds in the Midwest and South. The 8 to 14-day outlook shows the heat expanding to cover the eastern two-thirds of the country, while the west coast is still cool. Precipitation-wise, the NWS gives the southeast, northwest, and northern Alaska the highest chances of seeing wet weather, while the Midwest, Mid-South, Great Lakes, and southern Alaska would see dry conditions. Next, we'll look at the Farmer's Almanac's predictions for this month. They only gave some text, but when roughly translated into a map, it may look something like this. The Northwest and New England would be cool and dry in this scenario. Much of the northern tier would see chilly conditions, the Southwest would see frequent storms, and a large chunk of the eastern half of the nation would be fairly warm and wet, save for dry conditions in Florida. Do note that this forecast is almost a complete opposite of the NWS forecast. Next are the models. First, the CFS model predicts considerable warmth across most of the West, Midwest, and Florida, while the South and Northeast coasts would be cool. The Canadian model paints a very similar picture, although the cool air is more exaggerated here. This model gives the West a warm month, while the northern tier and East Coast would be cooler than average. Lastly, for temperatures, the North American model says that the entire country will be slightly above average, with the warmth being centered in the South or Midwest. Now, let's see what these models say for precipitation. The CFS model is very bullish on a dry November for almost all of the country, save for the Pacific Northwest and southern Florida. The Canadian model is once again very similar, though with this model, the wet conditions stretch the entire west coast and the dry conditions would not be as severe. Lastly, the North American model gives the southeast and east coast a wet winter, as well as parts of the northwest, while the rest of the country is near average. Finally, here are my predictions for the month of November. Looking at temperatures, the center and south of the country looks to be mild, while cooler conditions prevail in parts of the west coast and New England. Precipitation-wise, the Pacific Northwest looks to stay very wet through at least the first half of the month, alongside the southern plains. Most of the country, however, looks to stay dry, especially so in the Southwest and Midwest. Slightly dry conditions do extend into the Mid-South, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast, but it does not look to be as severe as in the previously mentioned areas. Lastly, here is my prediction map for this month. Starting in the Northwest, wet conditions look to prevail this month, especially through the first half, with frequent storms bringing heavy rain and mountain snow. The Southwest will see warm and cold, and may experience a volatile temperature pattern, but should end up near average for the entire month. Next, in the large orange region, warmth should take over the pattern for November, with temperatures at times reaching records. Within this region is an area that looks to experience extreme dry conditions compared to average, with drought worsening across the board. In the southern plains, a few heavy rain events are possible, especially in the second and third week of this month, but otherwise, the area will remain hot. Across the southeast, the drought that quickly appeared over the summer looks to worsen this month, as the typical El Niño storm track has yet to set up. Some storms are possible, but it will not be enough to bust the drought. Moving into the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley, the month will overall be near average, with slightly dry and slightly warm conditions likely prevailing. Early season winter storms or heavy deluges don't look likely, but can't be ruled out. Much of the Great Lakes and northern New England look to see frequent clipper systems, becoming less frequent toward the end of the month. They won't all bring snow, but repeated rounds of precipitation is likely. Finally, eastern New England looks to be off to a cold start, but may quickly warm up towards the 3rd and 4th weeks. Accumulating snow is likely in northern Maine, but not elsewhere in this region. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and leave any feedback in the comments. Thanks for being here, and have a wonderful day.